Hey everybody, I'm here with a book review, a book that just came out. It's called Programming Games for Intellivision by Oscar Toledo Gutierrez, also known as Nanochess in some circles. And he was a programmer of, well, got it right here. If you saw my last review or a recent review of Hover Buffer for the Intellivision, he programmed this very fun game. He's also programmed some other highly acclaimed games, including Mecha 8 on the ColecoVision and Princess Quest on the ColecoVision, which both appeared on the Coleco flashback review that I did a while back. So this is programming games for the Intellivision, and as you could guess, it's about programming games for the Intellivision. And, you know, there's a lot of retro gamers out there who have dreamed about, you know, making their own game, but they never really knew where to start. Well, this is a good place to start right here. So let's dig into this book just a little bit. So when you start the book, which is a pretty easy read. It does have a lot of kind of technical stuff in it, but I'm not a technical guy, but I thought it was a pretty easy read. Starts out just telling you a little bit about the Intellivision itself, you know, kind of the technical background of the system. And we get our first program right here. And this book is all about learning how to write in a program he created called Intellivision, which basically is a compiler. You know, previously, if you wanted to program Intellivision games, you had to use assembly code, from what I understand. And with Intellivision, it simplifies it. If you're familiar with BASIC, it kind of is a basic version for the Intellivision. So he has a program right here, which previously he says would have took 50 lines of code, but now you just have these simple lines right here. And basically, this is what he does in the book. It's kind of like you're in a classroom with him, and he gives you a program to type in, and he's giving you these programs to teach you how to program games. So you start very basic, and then, you know, pardon the pun, and then it gets a little bit more complicated, as I'll show you in a minute. But chapter 2 kind of tells you, where to find Intellivision, which is free, and an emulator that you could play your games on, and so on and so forth. And then you actually get to program your first little program to see how it works. And then chapter 3, we are going to get a little bit more complicated. So basically, you're going to get a little bit more and more complicated, and it tells you more about, some of the code, some of the commands you can do in BASIC itself, some of the common commands. And so you're just kind of learning the ropes. And then you get to your first basic program. And one thing that's cool right here is he shows you the tiles used on an Intellivision screen. The Intellivision uses cards, if you will, or tiles that are spread out, as you can see right here, and you have this kind of array of where you can place things. So when you look at an Intellivision game, it's not just one screen, but it's all these cards put together to make a screen, and kind of explains how you can use that to program a game. And then it also goes through some of the colors that are available on the Intellivision itself, some of the basic colors, and you're going to make your first sprite. And it's just a really nice walkthrough. Also shows you what area of the screen is actually visible, because if you play retro games on a modern TV, sometimes you see borders that you didn't notice before, because originally you wouldn't see the full screen. So it goes through that, and controlling the game, and programming sounds, inserting graphics, how you can even, take bitmaps and kind of convert them sometimes into Intellivision graphics. And then we get to our first game. It's called A Game of Ball. And you're saying, a game of ball, what's that? Well, it's your basic, retro ping-pong style game. And you're going to learn how to program your game of ball. And he gives you the whole program. You type it in and it will work. And he encourages you to type it in, to learn how to type in with Intellivision, and then play around with it to see how you can affect the game. So after you do the ping pong game, then you're going to do a platformer game called Monkey Moon. And it might look familiar to some people. You can see where it gets its inspiration. Yep, that's a Monkey Moon. You got a monkey throwing asteroids at you on platforms. But it, again, teaching you how to do a platformer. I thought this was interesting, showing you all the directions that you can use on a disc. Some programmers, they didn't use all the directions, and sometimes that's good for some games, but sometimes it's not. That's why you'd have dead, areas on the disc where you press and it didn't do anything, because the programmer didn't program one of these values, and the buttons as well. So we're going through Monkey Moon. After we get done with Monkey Moon, then it's time for Space Raider. So you got a space shooter, in Chapter 6. Then Chapter 7, we got a new game called Bouncy Cube. And again, getting just adding a little bit more elements to it. And then Chapter 8 talks about how you can use assembly language to kind of add more to the game. You know, you can do more in assembly language than you can do in BASIC, but BASIC makes it a lot easier. So it kind of shows you how to marry the two, if you will. And then at the back, you have your, you know, reference guides, like the basic reference manual, which I could assume would be really helpful to programmers. And then let's see if I can get to it. And then we have, you know, using the sound chip, how to make sounds on the Intellivision, and then different resources. And finally, we got a source code for rotating smiley. And that's basically the book. You got 188 pages. It's available in hardback and softback like I have here. And they actually have contests right now at Atari Age. They're doing an NT Basic contest where people use this NT Basic program, and it gets turned into a contest where it can literally, your game can become a cartridge or become part of a cartridge. And there's a foreword by William Muller of Electronite saying how basically someone could make a game with NT Basic that theoretically Electric Knight would possibly want to publish. So there is definitely options. You know, there's programs out there where you can make a game within a game, but you can't really export it or do anything with it. Here you could actually learn how to program for a system. So, you know, I think this is a good reference. If you have the time and desire to learn how to program games starting at the very basics, this is a good guy to learn from. He's highly regarded. And, you know, I would recommend checking out this book. You can get this at Amazon. I think the list price for the paperback is that I have here is about $30. It's also at, I think it's called lulu.com. And I'll put links below. It was cheaper there. So you could check out both those sites to see, you know, booksellers, typically the prices can fluctuate. But Oscar Nanochess is very, very open. If you go to Atari Age, there is a programming for Intellivision threads where you can ask questions and learn. And I know Nanochess is on Twitter as well. And I'm sure he would, you know, answer any questions anybody has. But I think, you know, this is a good way to support someone who's made this program. NT Basic, as I said, is free. So this is a good guide. If you want to learn how to program retro video games, maybe you might want to consider the Intellivision. It has a very healthy homebrew, new brew community kind of going on. Lots of programmers. We've seen some really interesting stuff come out of it. So that's programming games for the Intellivision. I want to thank Oscar for sending me a copy of this book to review today. I want to encourage you to look into it if this is something that interests you. Go ahead, click like and subscribe, and I will see you next time on the next No Swear Gamer video.